Ananda Giri. You're coming from India?
Yes, I'm coming from India, and I live with a community of 17 other teachers like myself. And I serve with this organization called One World Academy. And this academy was created by two young people, Krishnaji and Preetaji, and they believe that education is incomplete if it is merely academic in nature. Along with academic education, one needs to be taught life education, which is teaching a person the art of living, teaching a person how to be happy, teaching a person how to connect with oneself, to connect with the other, to connect with life around. It is with this vision they created this beautiful academy, and I'm a part of this One World Academy.
And now you are traveling around Europe to give special lessons with your teachings?
Yes, I'm traveling around doing seminars, 1-day spiritual immersion seminars and 2-day immersion seminars called Awareness in Freedom.
Awareness in Freedom.
Awareness and Freedom.
And Freedom.
Yes.
Yes.
But it's actually that. It is awareness in freedom.
Yes, yes.
Or freedom in awareness.
Yeah, yeah.
And yes, that's the reason I'm here in Europe, traveling around doing these events.
We will have a special event also with the theme you speak about, IMV, in Izmir in May this year. So many people come there to speak about also this sentence, this meaning from IMV, and so now you are invited into this meeting in Izmir to speak about your vision from these 3 words, IMV. What is the inner this inner meaning? What can you talk to us about this?
I will share our perspective from One World Academy. I mean, you said it so perfectly. I am we. There are 2 places we can think from. One, we can think from the belief, from the perspective that I am a separate individual. I exist on my own. And the actions arising from this kind of thinking will be of a particular kind. You can also think from a place that we are one and not separate.
Mm.
And the consequences of that thinking will be very different. First, let us examine the idea that I am a separate individual. We are all conditioned to think and believe that we are separate. But are we truly separate?
Mm.
If we reflected on some of the major problems we experience in the world today, problems like poverty, violence, discrimination, war, even terrorism, and conflicts between 2 individuals, to families, to communities, to religions, to nations. And if we identified reasons for each of these problems, the reason for war, the reason for poverty. While it might appear to us that the reasons for each of these problems are different. The reasons for poverty is different from reasons for war, is different from reasons for discrimination. But if you go to the root of each of these problems, or all of these problems, the root of war, the very root of poverty, the very root of all conflicts, and ask that question again, why war? Why conflict? The reason is the same. The reason, or what is the root of all division, all conflict, all discrimination, is the sense of separateness. A feeling of me and the not me. My point of view, not my point of view. My family, not my family. My significance, my certainty.
Against
Yes.
the others.
Against the other. And my religion, not my religion. It's a conflict between me and the not me.
Yes.
As long as you think and act from this place, the place of the me and the not me, there will be conflict. There will be sorrow. The question we need to ask is it true that I am separate from the world around me? Is it true that I am not connected to the world around me? Is it true that the other is not a part of me? We don't need a mystical experience to find an answer to this question.
No.
All we need is a moment of reflection.
Yes.
If you can reflect on this question, is there one moment in my entire life that is independent of the rest of the world? We can take any one moment in our life. You can take any one moment of your happiness, of your achievements, the thrills you experienced in life. How did that achievement happen? How did that happiness happen? Did it happen on its own? No. Multitudes of factors had to come together to create that moment of happiness. Even if you ask the question, who am I? Who am I physically? Who am I emotionally and spiritually? Talking about ourselves physically, who am I physically? Can you separate yourself from your parents? Your parents have become you. Can you separate yourself from the earth that gives us all the fruits and vegetables that we need? Can you separate yourself from the tree that gives you the oxygen? If you said lungs are a part of your body, because they give you the oxygen, which oxygen supports life, which oxygen is necessary for the brain to think, for the heart to beat, and you say, this is mine, these are my lungs. Where do lungs get their oxygen from? From the tree.
Did I found them? Did I made them?
Yes. Did we make them? And even where do these lungs get the oxygen from? From the trees outside. Then is the tree not an extended part of the human body? Is it not as important to us as our lungs? Can we exist without the tree? Can we exist without the sun? There are millions of people working every day so that we can have a comfortable meal. Our meals does not suddenly appear like that on our table. It requires the efforts of millions of people. From the farmer, from the truck driver who transports the food from one place to the other place. And so many ideas, so many technologies, so that you can have your sandwich, so that you can have your tea. I mean, the whole of human civilization is going into all our experiences. I mean, the whole of humanity is a part of our every moment. It's so cold outside, you step outside and you're shivering. You pick up a nice warm jacket to cover yourself. You wear a sweater to cover yourself, to keep yourself warm. How did that warmth happen? How many people are involved in the manufacturing of that coat? Not just people, the whole world, the whole universe is a part of our every experience. So it's a question we need to reflect on. Is there one moment in our life that is independent of the rest of the world? Is there one object that we possess that exists on its own, that's independent of the rest of the world? And emotionally, who are we? Do we exist on our own? We are defined. We are defined by all the wonderful people that are a part of our life. We are defined by all those wonderful moments that are a part of our life. Without those moments, without those people, I won't exist. If I'm having a conversation with you right now, if I'm able to share a perspective with you right now, so many incredible people who are a part of my life have defined me, which has resulted in our conversation this afternoon. So I think it is necessary that we understand that we cannot separate ourselves from the world we live in. At every level, we are connected to each other. When we realize the inseparability of all life, the interconnectedness of all life, there will be a very definitive transformation in our thinking, in our actions. Our thinking will no longer be limited to ourselves or isolated to ourselves. It will naturally include the well-being of the other. And that is the thinking we need to make a better world. We need to think and act from the awareness that we are one and not separate.
Yes. And how can we remember this all the time?
By reflecting on the simple experiences of our day-to-day life.
Yes. But we have our daily life and have our computer and our telephone. How can I bring in your wonderful thoughts, your knowledge into this, to remember it, to connect to it? To be wonderful.
Every moment is a moment worth reflecting. You have your phone in your hands. You want to call and speak to your son, to your daughter, to your friend, to your wife, to your husband. And you dial, you talk to them, you feel so nice. And you're so happy that you're able to connect with them or in some other part of the world. How did that happen? If you can reflect on that moment, you feel so happy. How did that moment of happiness happen? Without the telephone, could you connect to that person? Without the technology, without the people who made the technology? Every experience, you will see how the whole world is involved. You're hungry. You order for a sandwich. And you take a bite. And you feel so satisfied. And for you to experience that satisfaction, do you know the whole universe had to work?
The whole universe.
The whole universe had to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
The farmers, some farmers in some part of the world, growing that lettuce, tomato, onion, or potato, somebody growing wheat, and somebody processing that wheat into bread, somebody transporting it from one place to another, using some machinery, some technology, and somebody preparing a nice sandwich and bringing it to your table, and then the earth supporting that whole process, the sun supporting the whole process, the clouds, the oceans supporting the whole process.
Yeah, all the knowledge of the humanity.
All the knowledge of humanity, yes. It's like the whole universe, the whole humanity, whole human civilization, the whole world, the whole universe is at work. Every breath we take, the whole universe is at work. Every time we eat a meal, the whole universe is at work. Every time you move from point A to point B, the whole universe is at work. Every time you have a desire to connect with someone, you take your phone and dial that number, the whole universe is at work. You're feeling cold, you want to wear some warm clothing, the whole universe is at work. We live in a world, we live in a universe that is interconnected, that is dependently arising.
And this interconnectedness, you spoke about that you teach the people how to love themselves to get this information. This point seems to be very important, how to love oneself.
That's a different experience. Obviously, one must be in a place where they're at peace with who they are. Only then they can really reflect on the interconnectedness of all life, or reflect on any deeper spiritual truths. If you're conflicted within, if you're unhappy within, you could be exposed to the most wonderful teachings, the most wonderful spiritual practices, and you wouldn't be able to really appreciate anything or understand anything.
This is an important point.
Yes.
How can I connect to this knowledge? So this will be very nice if you can speak a little bit also about this, what you speak to the people, how they get to themselves, how they can love themselves. In this world it seems so difficult.
It is not so difficult.
Yes!
If one must really learn to love oneself, meaning, if one must be at peace with who they are, one has to become aware of that conflict that one experiences within, a conflict between what you are and what you are supposed to be. And that conflict has to be dissolved. It is as if all of us are carrying an image in our head, the image of the perfect person, the ideal human being. It's an idea in the human mind. It's not particular to your mind or my mind.
No.
It's a program in the human mind.
Yes.
And how did this idea come into existence? How old is this idea? The idea of the perfect person? We don't know. Maybe 5,000 years old, maybe 10,000 years old. How did it happen? Maybe our religions, maybe our spiritual traditions, maybe our society conditioned us with this idea.
The founding of imagination is the point.
Mm-hmm.
At this point started this.
Yes.
Before we cannot have an image of this what we want to be.
Mm-hmm. And once you have that idea, the idea of what you're supposed to be, that perfect person, then there's this constant becoming, trying to become that perfect person. And how do you define this perfect person? You imagine a person who has a mind, a perfect mind, a beautiful mind. A mind that is devoid of any form of anger, jealousy, judgment. A person who's full of love, who's totally honest, who's humble. And in reference to that idea, the idea of what you're supposed to be, every thought of yours, every emotion of yours, every action of yours is being evaluated as right and wrong, good and bad, should be and should not be.
And so I'm very busy all the time.
Yes.
Yes,
There is a war with yourself.
Yes.
That is the conflict. That is the conflict we experience within ourselves. One should become aware of this conflict. One cannot try to love oneself without bringing attention to this conflict. And what do you do once you bring attention to this conflict? You become aware of what you are and stay there. Not immediately try to move to the other place, the place of where you want to be. Observe the truth of what you are. Right now we are so terrified of looking at the truth of what we are. We want to change the truth. We want to replace the truth.
Because we are already a wonder.
It doesn't matter what you already are. Why are we so afraid of looking at the truth of what we are? Why are we afraid of looking at the truth that I'm a jealous person, I'm self-centered, I don't feel love for the others? Instead, we want to replace it with something else. We want to replace jealousy with non-jealousy, anger with non-anger, hate with love. The journey begins with an awareness of where you are, not with an obsession of where you should be. So if one should learn to love themselves, one should bring their attention to what they are, who they are, where they are, and embrace the truth of what they are. Truth has enormous power. It has the power to set you free. Not if you avoided the truth or resisted the truth, but if you can observe the truth and embrace the truth.
And so, with this mind, also this IMV is totally changing.
Absolutely.
With many of people love themselves, also the V is totally another one.
First, you must become one within. You cannot be divided within.
Yes.
Once you become one within, then it becomes easier for you to perceive the oneness of everything, the oneness of all life.
So, thank you so much, Ananda Giri.
Absolutely. It's a joy meeting you and knowing you.
Thank you.
I wish you all the best with your project. It's great work.
Thank you so much. I wish you also very good work with your thoughts and your teachings.